Part 18. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 172. Meow. As soon as Chen Ronghuo finished explaining to Xiaoruo, a cat meow came from behind him. He turned his head and immediately saw the fat cat running from a distance, turning into a streak of orange lightning and swooping into his arms. But after running into his arms, the fat cat didn't say a word and just kept pushing into his arms. "Okay, I know you've been wronged, why don't I just make you something delicious?" Chen Ronghuo hugged the fat cat and rubbed its body, which was getting fatter. "This guy is really looking more and more like a ball now. Delicious. Can I pass on ordinary delicious food? I want to eat kraken." Shamao raised his head, glanced at Chen Ronghuo, and conveyed his strong desire to eat the sea monster to Chen Ronghuo. It had been so long that it didn't even know how long it had been thinking about the kraken. When he went to Black Tiger Town before, Chen Ronghuo promised it that he would catch sea monsters for it to eat when he came back. But now, a full month has passed. Kraken. Chen Ronghuo was startled. After thinking for a while, he said, "Okay, if you want to eat, I will take you to catch the sea monster in 2 days." His cultivation level has reached the second level peak, and he needs to find an opportunity to master his suddenly increased strength. It's just that the destructive power of his natural disaster demon flames is too strong, so it's definitely not possible to compete with others. In this case, it would be a good idea for him to go to the sea and find a sea monster to practice his skills. The area where the Kato Snake Islands are located has a vast sea area. The demons in the sea are far more numerous, stronger, and more ferocious than those on the islands. But generally speaking, monsters that are too powerful are found in the deep sea. He took a boat to the offshore area and the chance of encountering danger was not high. After receiving Chen Ronghuo's promise, Shamao showed a proud look. But it was a little worried that Chen Ronghuo would break his promise again, so after thinking about it, he suddenly stretched out a paw and hooked his hand at Chen Ronghuo. "What are you doing?" Chen Ronghuo didn't understand it for a moment. "Pull the hook," Fat Cat said with a straight face. Chen Ronghuo was speechless for a while. He knew that this must be because Shamao saw that he was hooking up with Huang Xiaoshan and took it to heart. Okay, seeing the fat cat not retracting its paws unless he hooked it, Chen Ronghuo shook his head, hooked its furry little paws with his hand and said, "Then pull the hook, 3 God, I promise to take you out to sea to catch the sea monster within 3 days. Only then did the fat cat become happy. At the same time, I felt proud. Now it is not as easy to coax as before." Seeing the fat cat's appearance, Chen Ronghuo had a distant look. This time, he plundered all the power of faith that he had accumulated for many years in Tongluo Town, gained huge benefits, and directly raised his cultivation level to the second level peak, and his mind became a little wandering. A man is not rich without windfall, and a horse is not fat without night grass. Looting is always the fastest way to accumulate original capital. And judging from the current situation, it is no longer possible for him to continue to develop in Lushwiven Town with peace of mind. At the same time, the situation on Beiwu Island has reached a point where it is about to break out. I'm afraid it won't be long before a bigger conflict breaks out. So he should also think about how to get the most benefit next. He had some thoughts on this matter. It's just that for these ideas, he still needs to be proficient in mastering his greatly improved strength. The sea will be a treasure trove for him to quickly hone his strength. So after he agreed to Shamao, he also became a little concerned about going out to sea to hunt the sea monsters. Lord. After Chen Ronghuo dismissed Fat Mao, Zhu Qiang, who learned that Chen Ronghuo was out of confinement, hurried over with one person. After meeting Chen Ronghuo, he introduced to Chen Ronghuo, "This is the weapon refiner Gao Yan who I mentioned to you before." Chen Ronghuo glanced at Gao Yan, an old man with a red face. Seeing Chen Ronghuo looking at him, the old man immediately said, Gao Yan has met Lord Chen. Zhu Qiang told me before that the Lord has a large number of weapon training maps. Is this true or false? Zhu Qiang on the side felt helpless when he heard this. He and Gao Yan have known each other for a long time. I know that Gao Yan is good at everything else, but he is too straight-tempered. Chen Ronghuo smiled and appraised Gao Yan's attributes before speaking. Gao Yan, first level peak flame warlock. Age, 68. Warlock qualification, 2. He has been obsessed with refining weapons for many years, and has his own unique insights into the craft. After identifying Gao Yan's attributes, Chen Ronghuo nodded immediately. Although after a year of development, Lushwiven town is still full of waste. In particular, the weapon training hall and alchemy hall that he had wanted to establish for a long time have not yet been established. This time Zhu Qiang brought Gao Yan over, at least he could put up a shelf in the weapon training hall first. Thinking like this, he said, this matter is certainly true. Moreover, I not only have the weapon refining map in my hand, but also various unique weapon refining techniques. While talking, he picked up some papers that he had prepared in advance from the table, handed them to Gao Yan and said, if Gao doesn't believe it, you can take a look at these first. Gao Yan was not polite and immediately took the pieces of paper handed over by Chen Ronghuo and started reading them on the spot. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Gao Yan's hands holding the pieces of paper became tighter and tighter, and his already dazzling eyes became even more dazzling, as if he wanted to stare into the paper. Zhu Qiang on the side was extremely surprised. Knowing that Gao Yan could be shown like this, the things recorded on these pieces of paper must be no small matter. It was not until more than 10 minutes later, after Gao Yan had read all the contents on the paper, that he suddenly raised his head and sighed, the incredible weapon refining method, this time Gao Yan is really eye-opening. He followed him and looked at Chen Ronghuo and said, Lord, if I am willing to join your Green Water Bay town, can you show me the weapon refining methods you recorded on the back of this piece of paper? Of course you can. Chen Ronghuo smiled, if you can make great contributions to our Green Water Bay town, I won't be able to get you better methods for refining weapons than these in the future. Then there will be no problem. My subordinate, Gao Yan, pays homage to the Lord. Upon hearing this, Gao Yan immediately took a step back, then bowed to Chen Ronghuo and saluted. It is also a blessing for me to have Gao Lao help me. Chen Ronghuo smiled and stepped forward, helped Gao Yan up and said, I want to set up a weapon refining hall in the town. The weapon refining hall is not responsible for things in the town, it is only responsible for refining weapons. From now on, this weapon refining hall will be managed by you, Gao Lao. Item refining hall. Gao Yan was a little surprised, do the Lord have many pyromancers under his command? Chen Ronghuo shook his head, currently there are only 5 or 6 pyromancers who have just awakened and advanced to the first level, and none of them know how to refine weapons. But in the future, I will find ways to train more pyromancers. 5 or 6 pyromancers. Gao Yan was stunned when he heard this. Warlocks are extremely rare in Beiwu Island, and there are many types of warlocks. Let alone an ordinary town, even the original iron-blooded town only has a total of 4 pyromancers. At this time, Chen Ronghuo continued, but Mr. Gao, your cultivation level is a bit low. Before officially refining the weapon, you might as well find a way to break through to the second level. Only with strong strength can it be possible to refine better secret treasures. For everyone, strength is the foundation. With that said, Chen Ronghuo took out a soul-raising pill he had previously obtained from Dai Genzi, handed it to Gao Yan and said, this is a pill that can assist the warlock in advancing. At the same time, it was changed by me in a special way. After taking it, your warlock qualifications can be slightly improved. Next, Mr. Gao, you can try to break through to the second level first, and then start refining weapons. There were 3 soul pills in a bottle that he got from Dai Genzi. This kind of elixir is used to assist second-level practitioners to break through small realms. But for first-level cultivators, breaking through to the second level will also have a certain effect. As for what he said about using special methods to improve the sorcerer's qualifications, this is also true. Through experiments, Chen Ronghuo discovered that the attributes he had learned from other people could actually work after being integrated into most pills. Thank you, Lord. This time, no matter how uneducated Gao Yan was, his face showed gratitude. Pills that can assist breakthroughs and improve qualifications are priceless items no matter where they are placed. After dealing with Gao Yan's case, in the next few days, Chen Ronghuo dealt with the town's affairs while integrating the intelligence through Huanglin's intelligence network deployed everywhere and using the deduction techniques of ancient books to find out the truth about himself. Favorable information. At the same time, he also allocated part of his attention to observe the eldest grandson Zhengzin. Through observation, he found that after Changsun Zhengzin integrated into Wuchen's state of mind, for some reason, he remained the same as before every day and had the intention of leaving the territory. But this is obviously a good thing for him. And in such a busy day, 3 more days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, under the clear sky in Lang Lang, a medium to large wooden boat with a length of more than 30 meters set off from the pier of Lushuivan town and passed through the winding channel between the 2 mountains Zhenshui Mountain and Lushui Mountain, sailing towards the sea outside Beiwu Island. On the deck of the ship, Fat Cat shrank his body like a small ball and stood on Chen Ronghuo's shoulders. It had a pair of black round eyes, looking around curiously. Thanks to IMABC How Brother for the 600 coin reward, Little ZZG Killing God for the 500 coin reward, and Book Friends 2018121223332670 for the 100 coin reward landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 173. The big ship that Chen Ronghuo was riding on was composed of 2 floors. Chen Ronghuo and others were all on the upper floor. The lower floor was for rowing. There were a total of 30 rowers, all of whom were warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm. These warriors were divided into 2 rows and rowed the big ship at a very fast speed. In addition to these rowers, there were another 30 warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm on standby, who could replace them at any time. At the same time, the whole big ship was made of a kind of wood called light iron wood, which made the ship light and tough. Before boarding the ship, Chen Ronghuo also integrated 13 points of the solid properties of steel into the big ship, making the big ship more difficult to be destroyed. Lord, this curved waterway is about 3 or 4 miles in total. At the speed of our ship, it only takes a few minutes to pass through. An old man with deep wrinkles on his face said respectfully to Chen Ronghuo. This old man is the captain of the big ship, named Haitianyuo. At the same time, he is also an old man who goes out to sea to fish all year round in Lushuivan town and has rich experience. Although his cultivation is only in the middle stage of the warrior realm, he is the one who knows the offshore area best in Greenwater Bay Town. Chen Ronghuo nodded. This time he went out to sea. In addition to Haitianyuo, a group of late warriors, he only brought Zhenkinzan, Huanglin, and Hosan. At this time, Huanglin and Hosan were standing beside him. As for Zhenkinzan, he did not come out of the cabin. After a period of getting along, Chen Ronghuo already knew that Zhenkinzan was more homely than him. Almost every day, as long as he had time, Zhenkinzan would take the true disc of the array Dao and comprehend various arrays. When he was in Black Tiger Town before, Zhenkinzan would also play the role of a counselor. He even had to assist Shuejun in managing Black Tiger Town. But when he arrived in Greenwater Bay Town, Zhenkinzan found that in terms of internal affairs, Xiaoruo alone could manage everything in an orderly manner without the help of others. This was naturally the best thing for him. So he ignored everything else and focused on comprehending the formation. This time, if Chen Ronghuo hadn't called him out, he might have stayed in Greenwater Bay Town for the rest of his life. Ha, ha. A group of warriors below rode the oars in unison with a light laugh. The 2 rows of oars on the left and right also slapped the sea water like the wings of a big bird. Suddenly, after turning a sharp bay, everyone's eyes opened up, and the magnificent sea surface was fully presented to everyone. Buzz. At this moment, Chen Ronghuo's consciousness paused, and then it split into 2. Half stayed in his body, and the other half entered the ancient book space. After entering the ancient book space, he raised his head and immediately saw another golden star falling from the sky and being attracted to the thin film of the ancient book. Immediately, a picture appeared. Above the vast sea surface, in an area where the water was obviously darker than other waters, a group of black fish were chasing each other frantically. In the middle of these iron fish, there was a large pot-like object suspended. This pot had a lid. From the gap between the lid and the pot, a wisp of white gas spurted out, just like steam when cooking. It was just the steam and the pot that attracted the iron fish to chase. The scene flashed and ended. What is this? Chen Ronghuo was surprised. He withdrew his consciousness from the ancient book space and landed on the ancient book body, but he saw that there was no introduction to this matter. Hai Lao, do you know which sea area nearby looks darker than other places? Thinking of this, Chen Ronghuo turned to Hai Tianyu and asked. Darker than other places? Hai Tianyu frowned, thought about it, and suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, Lord, you are talking about the Devil's Sea, right? As far as I know, there is only the Devil's Sea nearby, which looks darker than other places. But the Devil's Sea is 30 miles away and no longer belongs to the offshore. I chased a big fish 10 years ago and went there, but I didn't dare to go in. It is said that there is a devil mermaid in the Devil's Sea. That thing is extremely terrifying. Any life that enters its territory will be hunted by it. Devil's Sea, devil mermaid. Chen Ronghuo frowned. Yes. Hai Tianyu said, but calling it the Devil's Sea is actually just a name given by those of us who often go out fishing. Because that area is only about a dozen miles in total, it can't be considered a region. I know. Chen Ronghuo nodded, and then after getting some information, he began to use ancient books to try to deduce information related to the Devil's Sea. But after one try, he shook his head and didn't go on. Because the energy consumed by calculating the information related to the Devil's Sea is not enough even with his soul power that has reached the peak of the 2nd level. This also proves that the name of the Devil's Sea and the spread of its terrifying name are indeed not groundless. At the same time, Chen Ronghuo also measured it through experiments. The energy required to calculate the information related to the Devil's Sea and the energy consumed by calculating Zhou Yuanhua's information are similar. Zhou Yuanhua is already a 3rd-level cultivator and a successor of the Earth Disaster. The Devil's Sea can be compared with him, so it is obviously not too simple. However, if it was just the same as Zhou Yuanhua, with his current ability, he would not be afraid. Even in the sea, it was the same. Thinking of this, he said to Hai Tianyu, Hai Lao, you lead the way, we go to the Devil's Sea. Hearing this, Hai Tianyu was shocked. Thinking of the various legends about the Devil's Sea, he couldn't help but shudder. But he had no way to refuse Chen Ronghuo's order. He could only command the crew to change the direction of the ship and sail towards the Devil's Sea. Meow. Hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, the fat cat called out in confusion. Didn't the master come out this time to capture the sea monster for it? But now it seems that the master seems to have another purpose. It turned its head and couldn't figure it out. But its idea was soon suppressed by the rolling waves in the distance. The sea. It looked into the distance. The sea monster. It stretched out its tongue and licked its mouth. Swoosh. The next moment, it flashed and rushed out. A big wave hit, and it stepped on the crest of the wave, doing 13 consecutive flips in the air, having a lot of fun. Fat cat, have also seen the sea today. It seems that it has never been so happy. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. But at this moment, 7 or 8 water arrows suddenly flew out of the water and shot at Fat Cat. The Fat Cat in the air suddenly turned its body to avoid these water arrows. Meow. Then it cried angrily, flew into the air, and looked down. I saw that the initiator of all this was a dozen palm-sized silverfish. When the small fish saw that they could not knock down the Fat Cat with one blow, they turned their heads and nimbly went underwater, trying to escape. Seeing that these guys wanted to escape after attacking him, Fat Cat immediately stopped. It panted heavily, stretched out its claws, and reached down to scoop, and then turned the power of wind into a net, and in a flash, it actually caught the dozen small fish, along with a lot of sea water. Then its figure flashed, and it returned to the boat with these silver fish. Silver water fish, not good. It can condense water into arrows and attack the enemy. It has a fierce and cunning temperament. The meat is delicious, and long-term consumption is helpful for martial arts practice. Thanks to the 100 coins reward from Moushi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Dupang. Chapter 174. Lord, 3 days have passed. There is still no news from Greenwater Bay Town. Should we give them some warnings? When Chen Ronghuo went out to sea to hunt monsters, in the important town of Yuanhe, the middle-aged man surnamed Nan, who had left Greenwater Bay Town 3 days ago, suggested to Wenjing Gluo, who was sitting on the Lord's throne. Warning. Wenjing Gluo held the armrest of the chair and pondered. That's right, the middle-aged man surnamed Nan said again, Greenwater Bowl Town is a little ungrateful. Do they think that they will become popular if we 3 important towns invite them together? The situation in Beiwu Island is complicated now. But no matter how complicated the situation in Beiwu Island is, the only ones who can laugh to the end are us important towns. Chen Ronghuo, the lord of Greenwater Bay Town, could not see through this and wanted to survive in the cracks. For such an ungrateful person, if we continue to invite him softly, he might think he has really become a big shot. Wenjing Gluo listened quietly. After the middle-aged man surnamed Nan finished speaking, he knocked on the armrest of the chair and nodded, saying, Lushwiven Town, we really need to teach them a lesson. But Chen Ronghuo, who was able to seize Lushwiven Town from Zhou Yuanhua and manage Lushwiven Town to the current level in just 1 year, is probably not a simple person. Even if Chen Ronghuo is not simple, can he still be the opponent of our Yuanhe town? The middle-aged man surnamed Nan was a little puzzled. In a year, Zhou Yuanhua didn't know what opportunity he got and gained the strength to kill a 3rd-level cultivator. And a year ago, Chen Ronghuo didn't kill Zhou Yuanhua, which means that a year ago, Chen Ronghuo's strength was at most 1 level stronger than Zhou Yuanhua. In this way, he didn't believe that Chen Ronghuo could also get a great fortune in a year and have the strength to kill a 3rd-level cultivator. Of course I am not afraid of Chen Ronghuo. Wenjing Gluo shook his head and said, but since this man is not a fool, why did he refuse the invitation from our 3 major towns? The pupils of the middle-aged man surnamed Nan shrank. He thought Chen Ronghuo was ungrateful before, but after hearing what Wenjing Gluo said, he suddenly realized that the fact might not be so. At this time, Wenjing Gluo continued, if it were me, I would definitely join one of the 3 major towns. And I would probably choose the strongest one to join. I guess it is not impossible that Chen Ronghuo has secretly joined Longtan Town. He has already joined Longtan Town, so why? The middle-aged man surnamed Nan frowned. Luring us into the game, Wenjing Gluo said with a hint of coldness on his face, I guess Longtan Town has probably secretly deployed people in Lushwiven Town. Once I send people to Lushwiven Town to warn Chen Ronghuo as you just suggested, the people who go there may never come back. The middle-aged man surnamed Nan heard this and his face suddenly showed a deep chill. He was quite good at talking, so he acted as a lobbyist in Xuanhuan town. But in terms of strategy, he was not so outstanding. So before this, he really didn't think so much, and he didn't expect that a simple thing could become so complicated. But he still said unwillingly, "Lord, are we just going to let Greenwater Bay Town and Chen Ronghuo continue to be arrogant? Let him be arrogant." When Jingluo stood up from his seat and sneered, "Just now Nai Kuangdao invited me to their Kuangdao town to hunt with him the sea monster that somehow entered the lake near them. When I finish this matter, I will go to Greenwater Bay Town when I come back. Use thundering means to remove this cancer, so as not to be an eyesore." Wen Jingluo is full of confidence. He believes that even if Longtan Town really set up means in Greenwater Bay Town, it will not be able to stop him. And as long as he helps Nai Kuangdao to solve the sea monster, then with Nai Kuangdao's help, he will not have to fear Longtan Town. On the wide sea, the large ship made of light iron and wood is moving rapidly under the rowing of 30 warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm. On the deck of the big ship, Chen Ronghuo asks someone to light a fire and help Fat Cat grill the dozen or so fish he caught. The tender silver water fish, supplemented with seasoning, immediately exuded a delicious meaty aroma after being grilled. Fat Cat, who loved fish the most, had his mouth full of oil. In addition to these silver water fish, he also asked people to throw down fishing nets and catch many ordinary sea fish. And some of the nutritional properties and delicious properties of some fish were integrated into a few fish. Then after grilling these fish, they were rewarded to a boat of subordinates. Such rewards made all the crew feel that the trip was worthwhile. After more than 2 hours, Hai Tianyu walked to Chen Ronghuo and said to him, "Lord, we have arrived at the Devil's Sea." Chen Ronghuo stood up and looked. Then he followed Hai Tianyu's direction and found that a sea area in the distance was obviously much darker than other places. Devil's Sea, under the radiation of a third-stage demon, the demon mermaid, the sea water in this area is full of cold attributes, and generally no life is willing to enter here. Is there really a demon mermaid? Chen Ronghuo frowned. A third-stage demon, and a demon in the water, with his strength, he definitely can't deal with it. It is estimated that if he faces this demon, Zhenkinzan will probably have to take action. Let's go in. But thinking so, he didn't hesitate. Yes. Hai Tianyu took a deep breath and ordered the crew to speed up. As the ship was moving at high speed, Chen Ronghuo turned his head and looked at the distant Beiwu Island and said, "Which town on the island is closest to us?" At this time, they had already left the offshore area of Greenwater Bay Town. "My lord, the town closest to us on Beiwu Island is the Kuangdao town." Hai Tianyu immediately replied, "But we are no longer in the offshore area. There was a big battle here, and although the sound might be transmitted to the Kuangdao town, the Kuangdao town would probably not send people to investigate such a battle in the sea." Chen Ronghuo nodded. At this time, the ship under them had rushed into the Devil's Sea under the acceleration. Even though the sun was still shining, everyone still felt cold as soon as they entered here. It was as if there was a trace of cold air seeping into their bodies from their pores. Feeling the abnormality here, Zhenkinzan, who had been comprehending the formation, also came out of the cabin. That is. Suddenly, Huanglin beside Chen Ronghuo was startled. Following his gaze, Chen Ronghuo, Zhenkinzan, Ho-san, and Hai Tianyu looked into the distance. They immediately saw that in the middle of this Devil's Sea, a large group of strange fish with black bodies as black as iron were opening their mouths full of sharp teeth, as if chasing something. How can there be other life in the Devil's Sea? Seeing this scene, Hai Tianyu immediately showed a puzzled look. He had never heard of anything that dared to enter the Devil's Sea. Iron-eating fish school, most of them are in the early stage of the first stage, and a few are in the middle and late stages of the first stage. The whole body is as hard as iron, and the fish teeth are sharp, and can chew steel. This fish is rich in nutrients and is very beneficial to warriors after eating. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed, and after identifying the properties of those strange fish, he looked at the dark, pot-like thing in the middle of those strange fish. One of the 9 gluttonous pots of Gluttony Island in the North Sea, it has a huge space inside, which can cook a large amount of food at one time, and can also greatly improve the deliciousness and nutrition of food. I have lost too many subscriptions. I have been thinking about the outline for a long time. In addition, I have something to do in the morning. I can only update 7,000 words today. I will make up for it tomorrow. Thanks to Moueshi for the reward of 500 coins, and Yu Yin Kangming for the reward of 100 coins. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Dupeng. Chapter 175. North Sea Gluttony Island. Gluttony 9 pots. After identifying the properties of the pot, Chen Ronghuo raised his eyebrows. He now knew that Beiwu Island was an island on the edge of the Gatuo Snake Islands. And the Gatuo Snake Islands were an archipelago in a sea called the North Sea in the world of gods. But he had never heard of Gluttony Island. He tried to calculate it with ancient books, but found that the energy consumed was far beyond the energy he could provide, so he immediately gave up the idea. Speed up, let's rush over. Chen Ronghuo gave an order. The crew received the order and immediately increased the speed of rowing. The 2 rows of oars were neatly aligned, like the wings of a big bird. In the flapping, it seemed as if the light ironwood ship was going to fly. The power of 30 warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm gathered together, and the power generated was amazing. As the ship approached the group of iron-eating fish in the center of the Devil's Sea, the coldness that permeated and spread from the bottom of the ship became more and more intense. Only Chen Ronghuo and Huang Lin, who were at the 2nd level or above, could resist this coldness. Others felt as if their bones were frozen. Chen Ronghuo looked at the sea water below, and saw that the closer he went to the middle, the darker the sea water became. It seemed that there was a big shadow hidden under the sea water. After thinking for a while, he looked at Zhenkinzan beside him and said, "Brother Zhen, be careful. There is a problem under the water. That devil mermaid may not be easy to deal with." "Don't worry, Lord." Zhenkinzan nodded. Then he summoned 4 large tripods with his mind, and they fell on the 4 corners of the ship. After the 4 tripods fell, everyone on the ship felt relaxed, as if the cold feeling just now was dispelled at once. Hai Tianyuo, who was also severely frozen just now, looked at Zhenkinzan with curiosity and awe after recovering. He didn't know Zhenkinzan. He didn't know where Zhenkinzan came from. He didn't know why Chen Ronghuo valued Zhenkinzan so much. It wasn't until Zhenkinzan took action. He knew that this white-haired man had such strength. This man should be a 2nd-level cultivator like Mr. Huang and Mr. Ho. He thought to himself. Sniff. What a good smell. Suddenly, as the boat approached the group of iron-eating fish in the middle, everyone suddenly smelled a fragrance that made people extremely hungry. In an instant, everyone's eyes fell on the 3 or 4 meter-sized iron pot in the middle of the group of iron-eating fish. This appetite-stimulating fragrance was obviously coming from that pot. And at this time, the group of iron-eating fish were obviously also planning to take the pot. Whoosh! While everyone was staring at the pot, the fat cat, whose body had shrunk to the size of a ball, suddenly flew out of the air and flew over the big pot. It looked down from the air, its eyes fell on the big pot, and it drooled unconsciously. This smell is really delicious. Even the food made by Chen Ronghuo can rarely compare with this fragrance. Swish! After secretly glancing at Chen Ronghuo in the distance, the fat cat looked at the big iron pot rolling back and forth in the sea under the impact of the iron-eating fish. It waved its claws down, just like it did with the group of silver water fish before, and turned the power of wind into a net to fish the big iron pot in the sea water. Hualala! The wind net fell into the water, and when it was lifted up, the iron pot was carried by the wind net and rolled out of the sea water. Quack! Just seeing the iron pot being taken away by the fat cat, the strange iron-eating fish with sharp teeth in their mouths all made strange noises from their mouths. Each of these strange fish is more than half a meter long, and the larger ones are even more than 1 meter long. Hundreds of fish poked their heads out of the sea water together, jumping and making strange noises, which looked extremely bizarre and shocking. As these noises sounded, a huge iron-eating fish more than 2 meters long suddenly rushed up from the bottom of the water. After this huge iron-eating fish rushed out, a strange pattern flashed on its head, and black ripples flowed all over its body. Quack quack quack. As the black ripples flowed on the body of this huge iron-eating fish, all the iron-eating fish around it, with dense noises, also emerged from their bodies with a layer of black light. In an instant, hundreds of black lights intertwined together, like a huge black screen, suddenly rising into the sky, turning into a huge black fish mouth the size of a house, swallowing the fat cat who was about to return to the big ship. The rolling suction came from the huge black fish mouth, and the fat cat, who was full of pride, suddenly froze in mid-air. The illusory black fish mouth was ferocious and fierce, as if it could swallow anything in front of it. What the hell? The fish is going to eat the cat? It turned its head and looked at the huge fish mouth, as if its face and thoughts were a little stagnant. As for the big pot, it was swallowed in one bite under the amazing suction formed by the fish mouth. Level 3. At the same time, everyone on the big ship was also shocked. Especially Chen Ronghuo, Zhen Qinzan, Huang Lin, and others. At this moment, all felt a trace of the power of the third level from the fish mouth. Hai Tianyu and others could only feel the huge fish mouth, which was amazing. But they didn't know how powerful the huge fish mouth was. However, when they heard Chen Ronghuo and others say the word third level, their hearts became extremely cold. Third level practitioners are all absolute big shots on Beiwu Island. Because of an incident hundreds of years ago, almost all the masters of important towns on Beiwu Island are only third level practitioners. In front of third level practitioners, even a dozen ordinary second level evolvers are useless. If this group of strange fish has the power of the third level. At this moment, most people on the boat felt a chill in their hearts. King of Iron-Eating Fish, the king of the Iron-Eating Fish School, a rare life, the king of the Iron-Eating Fish School, the early second level. The body of the iron-eating fish naturally contains incomplete innate array patterns. Once the king of the iron-eating fish is born in the fish school, it can use its own innate ability to connect these incomplete innate array patterns. Mobilize the power of all the iron-eating fish, transform into the illusory remains of the ancient iron-eating fish, and attack the enemy. The moment the huge iron-eating fish came out, Chen Ronghuo set his sights on it. Hundreds of iron-eating fish, under the command of a king of iron-eating fish, can exert the power comparable to the third level? Chen Ronghuo was shocked and finally knew why this group of iron-eating fish dared to rush into this devil's sea. But his reaction was not slow at all. Seeing that the fat cat was in danger, he waved his hand, and a ball of fire only the size of a fist flew out of his hand, like thunder, passing over the fat cat, and with a bang, fell into the huge black illusory fish mouth in the air. Although his cultivation was just at the peak of the second level, his flame affinity add to attribute allowed him to comprehend the flame realm and practice various flame secrets at a speed that was almost comparable to that of an average third level midterm warlock. He learned most flame secrets in one go. The fireball he threw out at this time seemed simple, but in fact it contained a large amount of natural disaster magic flames that were condensed to the extreme. The illusory mouth of the ancient iron-eating fish swallowed the fireball in one gulp without knowing why. Boom! And just after that, the fireball condensed by Chen Ronghuo exploded from the inside of the mouth of the ancient iron-eating fish with a bang. In an instant, black and red spots of varying sizes emerged from the surface of the fish mouth as big as a house. And those spots spread rapidly in a short period of time, until the entire huge black fish mouth was faintly black and red. It was like a star with chaotic internal power that was about to explode. At the same time, When the natural disaster flames were showing their power, the suction from the illusory mouth of the ancient iron-eating fish also quickly subsided. Fat Cat broke free from the suction, turned his head, looked at the huge fish mouth that seemed to be about to burst, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He suddenly raised a claw and slashed at the fish mouth through the air. Puff! After the cold claws, the huge fish mouth suddenly became like a deflated ball. With a puff, it turned black and red and dissipated. However, when the phantom of the ancient iron-eating fish mouth dissipated, the flames that erupted from it distorted the surrounding air and even caused layers of waves, causing the waves to hit the big ship under Chen Ronghuo and others, making a popping sound. Some flames also fell on the iron-eating fish when they splashed. However, under the black light flickering on the iron-eating fish, the reduced power of the natural disaster remnant flame did not cause much damage to them, but only evaporated a large amount of mist from the sea water. In the meantime, the big pot, one of the 9 pots of gluttony, fell back into the water with a splash. Quack, quack. The iron-eating fish continued to quack. In the cry, as if under the command of the king of the iron-eating fish, the iron-eating fish suddenly rushed out of the water, stacked together, pressed down, and pressed the big pot to the bottom of the sea. These fish seemed to realize that Chen Ronghuo and his party were not easy to mess with, and wanted to escape with the 9 pots of gluttony. However, just when these iron-eating fish wanted to escape, 3 of the 4 large tripods that Zhenkinzan had landed in the 4 corners of the big ship suddenly sprayed out various colors of light. These lights flashed and fell into the large water tripod near the direction of the iron-eating fish. Chen Ronghuo looked at the big tripod of Zhenkinzan. Knowing that these 4 large tripods, although they look the same as a month ago, are completely different in essence. A month ago, when Zhenkinzan just broke through, although his strength was not weak, he only used the 2nd-level secret technique to condense these 4 large tripods. Now, after a month of practice, the 4 large tripods condensed by Zhenkinzan are completely 3rd-level secret techniques. The 3rd-level secret technique is completely different from the 2nd-level secret technique. At this time, a large piece of white mist gushed out from the large water tripod. The white mist pushed forward like a white mountain shadow, and exuded an extremely rich cold air. Wherever it passed, the sea water in front was instantly frozen into ice. Those iron-eating fish were frozen in the ice before they could escape. Crack, 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 the black light on the king of iron-eating fish, which was also frozen in a large piece of ice, flashed, and the black light on the body of other black iron fishes merged into one, rippling and flowing, as if it was a ferociously arched black dragon scale, trying to break free from the ice. But before they succeeded, Zhenkinzan on the big ship dropped his hand, and the endless ice power in the distance quietly condensed at one point, gathering most of it next to the king of iron-eating fish. Then after a click, the king of iron-eating fish was instantly frozen in a piece of strange ice that was as crystal as white jade and emitting rolling cold air. As the king of iron-eating fish was frozen, the black light on all the iron-eating fishes dissipated. Then Zhenkinzan stretched out his hand and grabbed it back, and a huge piece of ice that froze hundreds of iron-eating fish flew up and hung above the big ship, like a deformed and strange ice umbrella. After a month of retreat, Zhenkinzan was incredibly powerful. Snap, snap, snap. As Zhenkinzan moved his mind, the huge piece of ice suddenly turned into steam and dispersed. Hundreds of iron-eating fish, along with the big pot of one of the 9 gluttonous pots, fell on the deck of the big ship. At this time, all these iron-eating fish, including the king of iron-eating fish, had already been frozen to death. At the same time, it was not until then that Hai Tianyu and the crew on the ship came back to their senses. Level 3. They looked at Zhenkinzan, then at Chen Ronghuo, with confusion in their eyes. Their own lord. And this mysterious white-haired man recruited by the Lord, could they all be level 3 practitioners? Thanks to the 4 book friends Dan Mo Ziaran, I am ABC Hoch, Heart Si Will, and blue guard for their 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 176. Return. After receiving the cauldron, one of the 9 pots of gluttony, Chen Ronghuo immediately ordered. Now they are still in the waters of manta rays. Although he wanted to find a powerful demon to practice his skills with, but faced with a demon whose cultivation had reached the mid-level 3rd level, it was natural that he could not provoke him, so it was better not to provoke him. No matter how confident he is in his own strength, he can only lose when facing a mid-level 3rd level monster. At that time, I'm afraid it will take Zhenkinzan's action to get them to withdraw from this area of water. And this is something that cannot be completely determined. Following Chen Ronghuo's order, the ship immediately turned around and sped towards the direction they came from. Just now, Chen Ronghuo and Zhenkinzan took action, which shocked everyone greatly. But thinking of the legend of the Devil's Sea, all the crew rowed their oars with all their strength, hoping to leave the sea as soon as possible. Meow. While the ship was sailing, Shamao healed his scars and forgot about the pain. After it returned to the boat, its body immediately turned into a stream of light and rushed to the large iron pot 3 to 4 meters high. Then he sniffed his little nose and sniffed the aroma coming from the big pot again and again. It's not even just the scent. There was still a trace of white gas escaping from the gap between the body of the iron pot and the lid. It looks like the aroma escaping from cooking. Smelling the aroma coming from gluttony 9 pots, Shamao closed his eyes unconsciously. And he stretched his neck, and his head gradually moved closer to the wisps of white gas escaping from the pot. No future. Seeing Shamao's appearance, Chen Ronghuo's face turned dark. This guy is really embarrassing to him. Isn't it enough that he has made it delicious so many times before? Suck. Just thinking about it, after enduring it again and again, he still couldn't hold it back and twitched his nose slightly. It seems really a little different. Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo had a thought in his mind and appraised the aroma emanating from the 9 pots of gluttony. Suddenly, a message emerged from the ancient book. The aroma of iron-eating fish cooked by the magic chef Yudupang using gluttony 9 pots. The smell of fish lingers around the beams and lingers for 3 days. Does this pot have an owner? Suddenly, after identifying the properties of that wisp of fragrance, Chen Ronghuo's expression suddenly changed. He looked around, and then after a moment, his eyes suddenly fell on the 3 to 4 meter high cauldron in front of him. Looking at the pot, his heart suddenly moved. Could the owner of this pot be in this pot? How strong is this person? How is your temperament? Is there any hostility towards us? Thinking like this, he immediately tried to deduce the origin of big fatty fish through ancient books. Big fatty fish, the magic chef and warlock at the early stage of the 2nd level. Warlock qualification, 5. Age, 11. The cultivator who was accidentally recognized as the master of Gluttony Jikuo and escaped from Gluttony Island in the North Sea is now in the internal space of Gluttony Jikuo. A message appeared from the ancient book. After seeing this message, Chen Ronghuo immediately opened his mouth, showing a hint of surprise. His expression changed drastically just now because he was worried that the owner of Gluttony 9 pots was too powerful. But he didn't expect that the owner of this pot was just a 2nd level early stage cultivator. And he is still a child who is just 11 years old. Although he was only 11 years old, it was somewhat rare for him to reach the 2nd level of cultivation. But no matter what, this kid named Yudupang is only at the 2nd level. Ho-san, can you please open this pot? Chen Ronghuo opened his mouth and gave instructions to Ho-san on the side. Yes. Ho-san agreed and walked to the Gluttony 9 pots. Put his 2 big hands on the pot lid and pot body respectively. The next moment, his whole body muscles trembled. Like the roots of an old tree, the branches are intertwined and work together. At the same time. Gluttony in 9 pots. A little fat man who was about 130 centimeters tall and weighed about 130 kilograms. When he felt the movement outside, he immediately huddled up tightly and began to tremble. In front of the little fat man, there was an illusory small pot that was exactly the same as the Gluttony 9 pots. In this small pot, a half-meter long iron-eating fish is tumbling. The alluring fish aroma emanates from this small pot. Just hearing the alluring smell of fish, this little fat man didn't even have a trace of appetite. All he has is fear. Outside. Hosan's hands fell on the lid and body of Gluttony Juguo. His rough palms tried hard to separate the two things, and the blood rushed through his body, using his maximum strength. What surprised him was that no matter how much force he exerted, he could not open the lid of the pot. Lord! After a while, Hosan raised his head and looked at Chen Ronghuo with a hint of shame. Can't you open it? Seeing this scene, Chen Ronghuo shook his head. But he didn't show any disappointment. After thinking about it, Chen Ronghuo suddenly showed a trace of weirdness on his face and said, since this pot can't be opened, then when we return, let's go to the sea area where the 5th level monster is hidden that we passed before. The aroma emanating from this pot is so weird, it must be very attractive to that level 5 monster. Then we will offer this pot to that big demon. When we go out to sea again, few demons will dare to mess with us. A 5th level big demon? In the 9 pots of gluttony, the little fat man's body tightened again after hearing Chen Ronghuo's words, and his heart was scared out of his mind. Ordinary practitioners and ordinary demons cannot open the 9 pots of gluttony, but if it is replaced by a 5th level big demon. At this time, outside, everyone was stunned after hearing what Chen Ronghuo said. Especially the fat cat, who stretched out his claws, scratched his head and said, Master, what 5th level big demon are you talking about? Where did the 5th level big demon come from? Chen Ronghuo glanced at it and said slowly, have you forgotten? It's the one we encountered not long ago. Its head is as big as a small mountain, its teeth are more than 10 meters long, and it has a long tail like a snake, which is full of barbs. It looks like... Bang! Suddenly, just when everyone looked strange and didn't know what Chen Ronghuo was doing, the lid of the gluttonous 9 pot, which Hosan had just tried to open, suddenly fell down by itself with a bang. As the lid fell to the ground, a short and fat figure in a mess suddenly climbed out of the pot. As soon as the short and fat figure came out, he shouted non-stop. Don't give me to the big demon, don't give me to the big demon. I'm 11 years old, I've grown up, I'm well behaved and obedient, and I can cook. My cooking is delicious, and I can cook for hundreds of people at a time. I can help you cook in the future. Thanks to the 2 book friends Weird Zixi people and Read and Write Good for their 100 coin reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 177. Seeing this little guy who seemed to be only about 10 years old in front of them, Zhenqinzan, Huanglin, Hosan, Haitianyu and others were all stunned. They didn't expect that there would be a person hidden in this pot. At the same time, they all understood the purpose of what Chen Ronghuo just said. Zhenqinzan's eyes fell on Chen Ronghuo. Among all people, he has the highest cultivation level. But before that, even he didn't see that there was such a secret hidden in this pot. At this time, Chen Ronghuo looked up and down, and the fat fish with a face as big as a big pancake said, "Can you really cook for us?" "Real? I can really cook, and I cook really well." The fat fish and the chicken nodded repeatedly as if they were pecking at rice. As if he thought of something, he suddenly turned around, hugged his hands in front of himself, and formed a seal. The next moment, the illusory small pot that was in the 9 pots of gluttony was transformed from the 9 pots of gluttony. Fly out and hang in front of it. In this small pot, a half-meter-long iron-eating fish that had been prepared was tumbling in the soup. A strong fish aroma emanates from it. Everyone couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Look, this is me making a gluttonous boiled iron fish. Big Fatty Fish held the small pot and presented the fragrant iron-eating fish in front of everyone. Gluttonous cooking iron fish, cooked by the magic chef Udupang in the gluttonous 9 pots, it is delicious and has an attractive aroma. It can greatly increase chi and blood and assist warriors in their cultivation. Chen Ronghuo glanced at the iron-eating fish in the phantom pot and nodded slightly. Meow. But when the fat cat looked at the fragrant iron-eating fish, saliva flowed from his mouth again, and he wanted to rush forward immediately and snatch the iron-eating fish. Big Fatty Fish looked at Chen Ronghuo and others in anticipation, but also a little uneasy. Just now, Chen Ronghuo said that he would give the 9 pots of gluttony to the big demon. He was really frightened. Seeing the nervous fatty fish, Chen Ronghuo said, "I am the lord of Lushwiven town on Beiwu Island. Since you can cook, you can be the exclusive chef of our territory from now on. In addition, if you behave well in the future, I can also accept you as a disciple." Big Fatty Fish's talent is very strong. Among all the people Chen Ronghuo had met, only Changsun Zhengzin and Zhenkinzan, who had been baptized by the light of inheritance, could compare with him. As long as the resources are sufficient and nothing unexpected happens, a 5-point warlock qualification will definitely allow Big Fatty Fish to become a 5th level warlock without much trouble in the future. Through ancient books, Chen Ronghuo knew that the Divine Chef Warlock was a rather rare type of warlock. Most of the Divine Chef Warlocks are not very strong. But if he can obtain precious ingredients, he can, like an alchemist, make food that can increase the speed of a practitioner's cultivation. Therefore, the Divine Chef Warlock definitely plays a huge role in a territory. Although Chen Ronghuo himself can gain abilities similar to those of a magic chef and warlock by integrating attributes into food, this is too time-consuming for him. It is impossible for him to spend a lot of time on this every day. Especially when his territory becomes larger and larger in the future, this will become even more impossible. So after seeing Big Fatty Fish's ability, he immediately had the idea of using it for his own use. "Don't worry, Lord, I will definitely behave well in the future." When he heard that Chen Ronghuo no longer mentioned sending him to the big demon, but also took him in, Fatty Fish suddenly showed a look of excitement. "Lord, something seems not quite right." But at this moment, Zhenkinzan beside Chen Ronghuo suddenly reminded Chen Ronghuo. "Something's wrong." After hearing Zhenkinzan's words, Chen Ronghuo's eyes narrowed. Following him, he looked into the water and saw that at some point, a huge shadow appeared faintly under their big ship. The shadow spread out and surrounded the entire big ship. It was like a huge dark wet cloth floating up from the bottom of the sea. Suddenly, when the huge black shadow touched the ship, a powerful suction force suddenly came from below. The big ship under Chen Ronghuo shook with a bang, as if it was about to be dragged into the bottom of the sea. On the big ship, 30 crew members in the late martial arts realm felt the scene and were all frightened. They hurriedly accelerated their rowing speed again. This time, they even used the strength to feed themselves. But no matter how hard they tried, it was all in vain. Under that huge suction force, the ship sank down in just a moment. Devil Mermaid. At this moment, everyone's hearts tightened. Everyone knows that this huge shadow must be the Devil Mermaid. Thinking of all the terrifying legends about the Devil Mermaid, all the crew members felt chills all over their bodies. Especially since the big ship was about to sink, it made everyone feel like they were falling into an ice cave. Buzz. At this moment, the 4 big cauldrons that had been thrown at the 4 corners by Zhenkinzan shook slightly and shot out bursts of colorful light. The colorful light dispersed, fell into the water, and collided with the huge shadow below. It finally offset the strong suction force and returned the speed of the ship to normal. Then those colorful lights continued to spread, even extending to the oars, making each oar suddenly become several times larger, like a cattail leaf fan. At the same time, the air around the ship also became stagnant. The paddles, like cattail leaves, rowed by 30 warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm, slapped in the stagnant air around them, causing the big ship under them to soar into the sky. Flying up. At this moment, even with the threat of the devil mermaid, everyone on the boat was stunned. Splash! At this time, as the big ship flew into the air, the huge shadow in the sea stirred the sea water, emerged from the water, and finally appeared in front of everyone. This is a huge monster with a human body and a fish head. This monster has 3 eyes. 2 of its eyes are the same as those of ordinary fish. But the third eye grows on the lower jaw, which looks very strange. At the same time, this huge monster is 15 or 16 meters tall. The skin exposed outside is covered with uneven fish scales. Below the waist, it wears a black skirt full of barbs. The skirt is not woven from other things, but grows with its body and is a part of its body. Devil Mermaid, Stage 3 Midterm. Talent, Devil Waters. Staying in one place for a long time can create a huge Devil Waters area. The Devil Waters area has a strong deterrent effect on weak life. At the same time, in the Devil Waters area, the strength of the Devil Mermaid will also increase greatly. Skills. Devil Scream, a sonic attack that can make people fall into terror. Wrath of the Wrath, condensing the souls of the killed life into one's skirt. When encountering a fatal attack, all the wronged souls are released to attack and confuse the enemy, and one takes the opportunity to escape. At the same time, in normal times, the more wronged souls are condensed in the Wrath of the Wrath, the faster the Devil Mermaid is. Soul Power Control, LV3, Mid-Level. Water Control, LV3, Mid-Level. Water Body, a large amount of water can be condensed outside of one's body, making one's body huge, thereby gaining terrifying melee ability. Note, refining the Devil Mermaid's ghost clothes into sails can greatly increase the speed of the ship. Chen Ronghuo stood on the deck of the big ship flying into the sky, looking at the Devil Mermaid below, and identified its attributes. Thanks to for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 178. Chen Ronghuo stood on the boat, looking at the Devil Mermaid below, with a solemn expression on his face. Judging from the attributes of this guy, he is probably an extremely difficult existence among ordinary third-level midterm demons. If it weren't for Zhenkinzan's quick reaction, I'm afraid their entire ship would have been dragged into the water. Pa! The rowers on the boat all tried their best to speed up the rowing. The oars hit the air, making a paw sound, making the big boat under everyone transform into a strange big bird with 15 pairs of wings that soared straight into the sky. Woo! At this time, the Devil Mermaid that emerged from the sea below saw that he had unfolded the clothes of the wronged souls and failed to drag Chen Ronghuo and others to the bottom of the sea. The fish opened its mouth and suddenly let out a sharp whistle. You can't leave. This whistle was extremely strange. In the sharpness, it seemed to be accompanied by a low and hoarse human voice. As this strange whistle sounded, everyone on the boat felt a chill in their hearts. It was as if a great terror had descended upon him. The strong sense of fear, like dense maggots, grew from the bottom of his heart, wanting to devour everyone's soul. In this state, the movements of the 30 crew members holding the oars suddenly slowed down. If it weren't for the colorful light emitted by the 4 large tripods of Zhenkinzan, which stagnated the air around the big ship and made it like colloid, I'm afraid that at this moment, the big ship that had just taken off would have fallen down. Devil's Scream. When the Devil Mermaid screamed, Chen Ronghuo already knew what this move was. If it was a normal situation, with the level of this Devil Mermaid, he would be hit by such a scream, but at this time he had already unsealed the seal pages of 2 ancient books. The 2 seal pages are now all blank. So this kind of attack on the soul is definitely what he is least afraid of. Without even consuming any energy, he could seal the part of the devil mermaid's devil scream that rushed into his soul sea with the instinct of the ancient book alone. Huh! Huge black and red wings rose from Chen Ronghuo's back, and he flew high from the ship while vibrating, and then waved his hands, and a dragon of fire rushed towards the devil mermaid below. After the wings of natural disasters were used, they not only allowed him to fly, but also formed a miniature flame field, making his flame attack more powerful. Roar! When Chen Ronghuo attacked the devil mermaid, Ho San on the hull suddenly roared. He was also in panic just now. But in just a moment, the strong fighting spirit in his heart dispersed the devil scream effect of the devil mermaid. After waking up, he sensed the state of the crew on the ship, and immediately used the demon ape roar in the earth ape magic art to completely release his fighting spirit. The crew members who came with the ship this time were all trained by him. All of them practiced the earth ape magic skill. However, Ho San practiced the original one, while the others practiced the copy. Through the earth ape magic skill, all his subordinates had a strange connection with him. At this time, he roared, emitting his strong fighting spirit, and immediately linked his momentum with the momentum of those crew members. In an instant, the momentum of the 30 rowers on the ship and the 30 spare rowers, a total of 60 people, under the integration of Ho San, was like a huge demon ape lurking in the abyss, suddenly stimulated, stood up with a bang, roared to the sky, and showed a ferocious appearance. Roar! The rolling roar turned into wind and waves, and spread far away. Even the devil mermaids below were shocked after hearing this roar. The ability displayed by Ho San at this time was actually similar to the ability of the king of iron-eating fish combined with hundreds of ordinary iron-eating fish. Zhenkinzan, who was not affected by the devil mermaid's devil scream, was slightly stunned after seeing this scene. He had wanted to rescue everyone on the boat, but he didn't expect that Ho San, who was not taken seriously by him because of his low cultivation, would have such ability. What a talented person! He looked at Chen Ronghuo flying high in the sky and sighed softly. Compared with his former Lord Xuejun, Chen Ronghuo not only has powerful means, but also has many talented people under him, which is far beyond Xuejun's reach. His mind moved slightly. Thinking of the endless war on Beiwu Island, but Chen Ronghuo has such strength and so many capable people under him, but he is still not well known, so you can imagine how big his plan is. Whoosh! When Ho San, with the force of 60 warriors in the late stage of the warrior realm, sent out a strong fighting spirit with the roar of the demon ape, which shocked the devil mermaid below, Chen Ronghuo had an idea and rushed to the devil mermaid with the part of the devil scream that he had just sealed with the seal page of the ancient book. Such a sonic soul attack has an extremely fast attack speed. Even if it was launched later, it was faster than the flame dragon he sent out and fell on the devil mermaid first. At this time, the devil mermaid had just recovered from Ho San's overwhelming fighting spirit. Before he could do anything, he sensed a familiar scream that rushed into his soul sea. The devil mermaid was naturally very familiar with his own moves. It was in doubt, wondering how the attack it had just launched could come back to it. However, its soul power was extremely strong, and it was very familiar with this kind of attack, so it only paused for a moment before recovering. But by the time it recovered, it was a little too late. At this time, the Calamity Dragon condensed by the Calamity Flame had rushed in front of it, and after a spin, it turned into a flame tornado and wrapped it inside. The blazing black and red flame wall exuded the artistic conception of disaster, burning, destruction, entanglement, and endlessness, and it shrank rapidly during the rotation. Woo! The next moment, an angry roar came from the black and red flame tornado. Even though Chen Ronghuo's cultivation was much worse than that of the devil mermaid, because of the special nature of the calamity flame, the devil mermaid suffered great damage immediately after the calamity flame was touched. Boom! The devil mermaid stepped into the water with its big feet like duck feet, and the rolling sea water immediately rolled up from under it, breaking up Chen Ronghuo's fire tornado and wrapping it tightly inside, making its body grow rapidly. In a short time, it went from more than 10 meters high to dozens of meters high, as if it was a sea demon. At this time, the crew on the big ship, after recovering, immediately increased the speed of rowing again. The boat flew away like an arrow. But after the devil mermaid became bigger, it took a big step with its big feet, and it didn't know how many meters it was in just one step. In just a few steps, it caught up, and at the same time, with the circle of its hands, it actually made a huge water spear and pointed it at everyone. I have been thinking about the plot these days, but I found that I am really not good at it. The more I think about it, the more confused I am. It is better to speed up the typing speed when the brain is spinning at high speed during typing. It is the time when the thinking is clearest. Therefore, I will resume the fast update state from now on. There will be 4 more tonight. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 179. Crazy Sword Stronghold. Crazy Knife Town is the southernmost town on Beiwu Island, close to the seaside. There is a large lake in the hinterland of Crazy Sword City. It is said that this large lake was created thousands of years ago when a king-level devil mermaid rushed onto the land and fought with people. So over time, this large lake became known as Manta Lake. When Chen Ronghuo was fighting the devil mermaid in the sea, 2 figures with astonishing momentum flew in and landed on the shore of Devil Ray Lake in the stronghold of Crazy Blade. The 2 figures were none other than Nai Quangdao, the lord of Quangdao Town, and Wen Jingluo, the lord of Yuanhe Town. Brother Nai, is that sea monster you mentioned in here? After falling down, Wen Jingluo turned around and asked. Yes, Nai Quangdao nodded. This is a sea monster horse, and for some reason, it ended up in my lake. This sea monster horse possesses the strength of the mid-level 3rd level. In the water, I can only beat it to a draw. It's interesting that a sea monster actually ran into the lake. When Jingluo shook his head. He followed him and continued, but since Brother Nai invites you, I will go to the lake with you. It's just that after this trip, the 2 of us will fight against the important town of Longtan together. Brother Wen, don't worry. Before Wen Jingluo finished speaking, Nai Quangdao said, we have been forming an alliance for a year. If it hadn't been for this siren horse to cause trouble, there was no way I wouldn't have fought against Dai Genzi last time. Go and help. As for Longtan Town, you must also know that there has long been enmity between Longtan Town and me. However, you won't wait for this matter to end and want to attack the important town of Longtan, right? Although I look down upon their actions, with their strength, even if the 2 of us join forces, the chances of winning are slim. Of course I know this. Wen Jingluo sneered, but I can't move in the important town of Longtan, but in Lushwiven Town, which has secretly joined the important town of Longtan, there is no problem if I move. Has Greenwater Bay Town joined the important town of Longtan? Nai Quangdao showed a hint of surprise. He obviously already knew about Greenwater Bay Town. Wen Jing shook his head slightly and said, I don't have any evidence yet. But based on my guess, this is probably 89% possible. Otherwise, with the methods I found out about Chen Ronghuo, it would have been impossible for him to remain a wallflower for so long. Okay, it's just a Greenwater Bay Town. If you want to take action, go ahead. Nai Quangdao shook his head and said, the situation on Beiwu Island is complicated now. After we form an alliance, we have to find something to do. Otherwise, if you are too low-key, you will really attract attention. In that case, let's go to the lake without further delay. Wen Jingluo nodded. Good. Nai Quangdao agreed, and immediately slashed out, splitting the lake water, falling directly into the lake, and rushed towards the bottom of the lake. Behind him, Wen Jingluo followed closely. This Manta Lake is not only vast in area, but also extremely deep. When Wen Jingluo and Nai Guangdao rushed into the Devil's Fish Lake in Guangdao's stronghold, Chen Ronghuo flashed in the sea and returned to the boat. Then he looked at the devil mermaid rushing towards him, and his eyes suddenly became stern. It gathered endless sea water and transformed into a devil mermaid dozens of meters tall, looking like a weird-looking water giant. At the same time, it is probably due to its special ability, the Clothes of the Wronged Soul, that even though its body is so huge, its speed is as fast as flying. Buzz. At the same time, the devil mermaid made a circle with her hands, and the water spear circled by it rumbled, emitted a piercing scream, sent out a circle of air ripples, crossed the sky in an instant, and shot toward the big ship under everyone. Call. On the big ship, there were seals in Zhenkinzan's hands, and 4 big cauldrons were circulating. One of the big cauldrons suddenly flew upwards, and then a billowing wind blew out of it. The wind roared, and after the endless gust of wind spurted out from the cauldron, it carried a deflection of force and collided with the flying water spear. It actually led it to a high place and flew above the big ship. Past. The devil mermaid's eyes showed fierceness. Just now, due to its carelessness, it was swept away by Chen Ronghuo's natural disaster flames, and now its body was scorched black everywhere. In particular, the power of disaster carried by the natural disaster demon flame is tightly wrapped around it. It seemed to be drilling deep into its body. Even with its strength, it cannot dispel this power in a short time. So after temporarily suppressing this force, it now wanted to destroy Chen Ronghuo's ship. But it didn't expect that there were so many powerful people on this big ship. Roar. Seeing that his attack failed again, the devil mermaid roared, and the rolling sea water gathered towards it again. It actually made its body much bigger again. In a blink of an eye, it was already more than 50 meters tall. But this devil mermaid didn't notice it. As the news of the battle between it and Chen Ronghuo and others came out, 10 huge black eyes suddenly emerged from the water outside its devil sea area. Those 10 huge eyes stared at the devil mermaid, all of them showing incomparable hatred. If you look down from the top of the 10 big eyes, you can see that the owners of these 10 big eyes are actually 5 strange beings that look somewhat similar to hippopotamuses on Earth, but they all have 6 thick legs. These 5 big guys are all huge creatures. Each of them is 8 or 9 meters long, and their bodies are incredibly strong. What do you think? Shall we go up? Of course we should. This is an opportunity. If we miss this opportunity, we don't know when we can avenge our mother. Yes, and maybe our mother is not dead yet. If we can defeat the devil mermaid this time, we may be able to find out where it hides our mother. When these big guys saw that the devil mermaid was fighting with a strange and powerful existence in the sky, they emitted strange waves from each other. After communicating with each other, they immediately dived underwater and quickly dived towards the devil mermaid from underwater. Boom! After the devil mermaid transformed for the second time, it took a big step and caught up with the big ship in the sky in one step. Then it raised its fist, and with a boom, it smashed towards Chen Ronghuo and others. Its fist was flowing with water light, extremely huge, almost like a small water mountain. Feeling the might of the devil mermaid's punch, Zhenkinzan on the boat raised his eyebrows, changed the seals in his hands, and suddenly summoned the heaviest of the 4 large tripods. After the large tripod was summoned by him, a series of cocky halos immediately rushed out of it. As the halos flowed, they turned into an illusory cocky mountain with it as the center in the blink of an eye. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Xiaoji Depeng. Chapter 180. The illusory mountain condensed by Zhenkinzan rose up, then suddenly fell down, and collided with the fist of the devil mermaid. There was a loud bang. The two shook, and then the mountain that Zhenkinzan used the cauldron to conjure up exploded, and the cauldron also flew back. At the same time, it can be seen that there was a not so obvious crack on the top of the cauldron. This devil mermaid is extremely powerful, especially in its devil sea. Zhenkinzan had to fight with it while protecting the big ship, and it was obviously a bit powerless. Just when the devil mermaid took a step forward and was ready to continue chasing Chen Ronghuo and others, a figure flashed and suddenly walked out from behind it. This figure was not tall and did not seem to have any deterrent power. But after he walked out from behind the devil, he stretched out his hand, and immediately a layer of dense black diamond-shaped scales appeared on it, which perfectly wrapped his palm, making it like a sharp cone. With a puff, it actually penetrated through the layers of sea water and pierced into the back of the devil mermaid. Woo! Sudden and severely injured, the devil mermaid suddenly let out a strange scream, and then when the sea water on its body was about to disperse, it swept its big hand and slapped the figure behind it. Whoosh! But before its big hand touched the person behind it, the person had already stepped on a strange step and strangely withdrew from its attack range. At this time, everyone realized that the person who attacked the devil mermaid was Xuanhuan. After Xuanhuan withdrew from the attack range of the devil mermaid, his figure changed continuously, and then sank into the water, as if he had merged with the sea water, and as if he had used some strange means to hide his figure, and he actually disappeared. The Mongodude Black Emperor Snake is the king of the shadows and the strongest stealth. Xuanhuan obviously inherited this. Boom! Just when the devil merman was furious and temporarily stabilized his injuries, his eyes fell vigilantly and madly on the big ship where Chen Ronghuo and others were. 5 huge black monsters suddenly emerged from under the sea around his body. After these 5 monsters appeared, they all squeezed towards the devil merman in the middle like a moving wall. What the hell? These 5 monsters that suddenly appeared, after suddenly revealing their figures, not only startled the devil merman, but also Chen Ronghuo and others on the boat. Sea Monster Horse, Cultivation Level 2 Peak. Talents, Huge Strength, Thick Skin, Silent. Qualification, 3. Boom! Chen Ronghuo had just identified the properties of these 5 big guys, and these 5 guys, while he was stunned, crashed into the body of the devil mermaid with a bang. The devil mermaid's cultivation level was as high as the middle stage of the 3rd level. But it was injured by Chen Ronghuo first, and just now it was seriously injured by Xuanhuan's sneak attack, and the large amount of sea water on its body had already dispersed. At this time, it was hit by these sea monster horses, and the sea water condensed on its body could no longer be maintained. It was like a floodgate opened, and all fell off its body with a bang. As these sea water fell, the devil mermaid suddenly revealed its body, which was only a dozen meters high. 10 meters high, it is not small. But it is in human form, and in terms of thickness, it is far less than the 5 sea monster horses. After the 5 sea monster horses succeeded in one attack, they immediately exerted their strength again and sandwiched the devil mermaid tightly in the middle. In this way, it was as if 5 big men turned into beasts and bullied a little girl in a black skirt. Huh! On the boat, Chen Ronghuo reacted suddenly. While the devil mermaid was distracted, he waved his hand and swung out another dragon of natural disaster, which rolled towards the devil mermaid. Zhenkinzan also seized the opportunity and made the big tripod spray out a yellowish halo, condensing a new illusory mountain. At the same time, not far behind the devil mermaid, Xuanhuan also showed up again. Before, he looked like he had gone into the water, but in fact, he did perform some secret technique and hid in the shadows. In an instant, the devil mermaid sensed an unprecedented crisis. Woo! It made a strange cry. The 2 big hands quickly retracted in front of it, but did not defend. Instead, when it was about to be submerged by the attacks, it quickly pinched out a strange mark. Woo woo woo. As soon as this mark appeared, everyone heard endless woo woo sounds in their ears. This sound did not come from the mouth of the devil mermaid in front of them, but from the sea water on all sides. After the sound came out, the 5 sea monster horses that worked together to sandwich the devil mermaid in the middle all showed horror. They had heard this sound before. Last time, their mother was led into the sea area by a strange fragrance. After a battle with the devil mermaid found that they could not do anything to their mother, so they made this sound and killed their mother. It was for this reason that this time, after seeing the devil mermaid fighting with Xuanhuan and others, they came to attack the devil mermaid and wanted to ask about the whereabouts of their mother. But they did not expect that the devil mermaid would make this sound again after encountering a crisis. Call of the Devil Mermaid King. Under the sea area, a 5th level Devil Mermaid King once fell. Before the fall of that Devil Mermaid King, he had set up a small teleportation formation here. Through this formation, you can directly reach the bottom of the Devil Fish Lake in the Kwangdao town of Beiwu Island. This teleportation formation is guarded by special prohibitions and can only be opened by the Devil Mermaid clan. At the moment when this large sound rang out, Xuanhuan identified it through the ancient book. In the state of being on the scene, he could not only identify that he could see things with his naked eyes, but also identify anything he could perceive through the ancient book. Small teleportation formation? Can you go directly to the Devil Fish Lake in the Kwangdao town? After identifying this information with the ancient book, Xuanhuan was immediately stunned. He really didn't expect that this devil mermaid would have such a trump card. At this time, amid a series of humming sounds, the large area of sea water below suddenly rolled back, suddenly forming a huge suction force, facing Xuanhuan and others. And at the moment when this suction force was formed, the devil mermaid, who was severely injured one after another, immediately flashed and fled directly below. Devil mermaid. Status: severely injured, internal organs damaged, strength severely reduced in a short period of time, risk of death if forced to fight. In the interval, Xuanhuan identified the status of the devil mermaid. When he saw that the devil mermaid was so seriously injured, he was surprised. As his eyes flashed, they fell on the 5 panicked sea monsters, revealing a strange look. Thinking that the huge power attribute of these 5 big guys was really not given in vain. Unexpectedly, the 5 of them attacked together and actually damaged the internal organs of the 3rd stage middle stage devil mermaid. There will be more later, but everyone will watch it tomorrow. Thanks to LM Li Dashin for the 2000 coin reward, and Qingtian Give and Duiwen for the 100 coin reward landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 181. When the devil mermaid quickly dived downwards, Zhenkinzan's eyebrows condensed, and he immediately shook the 4 cauldrons, spraying out rays of light, as if he wanted to use his means to keep the devil mermaid. When the devil mermaid quickly dived downwards, Zhenkinzan's eyebrows condensed, and he immediately shook the 4 cauldrons, spraying out rays of light, as if he wanted to use his means to keep the devil mermaid. Brother Zhen, wait a moment. Seeing this scene, Xuanhuan quickly stopped him. If you kill this devil mermaid, the most you can do is get one of its skirts and refine it into a sail. This doesn't have much effect on him now. Compared with this, Xuanhuan knew that this devil mermaid could activate the small movement formation here and allow people to move directly to the crazy sword town. This was its greatest role. Maybe he will be able to use it sometime. Being stopped by Xuanhuan, Zhenkinzan was a little surprised, wondering what Xuanhuan had planned. At this time, the sea water rolled back, and the suction force coming from the bottom of the sea became even greater. Faintly, everyone seemed to be sucked into an unknown place with this suction. At this time, after feeling this change, Zhenkinzan seemed to suddenly think of something and said, "Lord, there seems to be a moving formation on the bottom of the sea here. This change at this time should be the change that occurred after the shifting formation was opened. It's too late for us to leave the envelope here laterally. Therefore, if you want to avoid this formation, you can only fly higher. At this time, the ship beneath them was still in mid-air. Just because of the suction below, even if 30 oarsmen rowed wildly, the boat was still sinking gradually. You can avoid this moving formation by flying high. Hearing Zhen Qinzhan's words, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed, and he immediately said, "Then do you have any way to allow this ship and other people to land safely after we leave through the moving formation?" This. Zhen Qinzhan was shocked when he heard this. "Lord, I do have a way to land our ship safely, but after the ship lands, what if the devil mermaid comes out again? Also, move, I don't know where the other side of the land is. If we go there, if there is any danger there." "Don't worry, the devil mermaid is seriously injured and will not be able to come out in a short time. Besides, I know where this moving place leads." Chen Ronghuo shook his head and said, "There may be some dangers there, but with our strength, there is no problem." Big. When he said this, he immediately turned around and said, "Ho San, you will lead the team back to the town later. Brother Zhen, Huanglin, please come with me and pass through this moving formation to take a look at the opposite side of the moving formation." Several people communicated through soul transmission, so they spoke very fast. It only took a moment for them to communicate. After making the decision, Chen Ronghuo immediately flew down from the ship, then dropped the power of his soul on the ship, controlled the ship, and headed for the spaceship in the distance. The weight of this big ship is huge, and there are dozens of people on it. It is impossible for him to arrest the entire ship with the power of his soul by himself. But when he was using his method, Jin Qinzhan could only fly down and start to help as well. Zhen Qiansan is a third-level cultivator. Coupled with the weirdness of the heart formation warlock and his own powerful talent, his strength is now far stronger than Chen Ronghao. With his help, the big ship finally moved. In the process, he formed a seal in his hand and quickly imprinted a floating formation on the big ship. Because this suspension formation was imprinted in a hurry, its effect is limited. But it can prevent the ship from crashing into the sea all at once after they teleport away. Rumble. Using various means, the large ship, which weighed an unknown number of kilograms, flew high into the sky at an extremely fast speed. This scene made the 5 siren horses below look extremely shocked. They never thought that such a huge creature could fly so fast. Meow. At this time, Shamao, who had been staying on the boat and was a little confused about what happened, saw that Chen Ronghuo wanted to abandon him and leave alone. After shouting, he immediately used the wind control technique, and whoosh flying into Chen Ronghuo's arms. "What are you doing here?" Chen Ronghuo was a little helpless. But the fat cat stuck its head into his arms and refused to leave no matter what. Seeing this, Chen Ronghuo could only take it with him. At this time, after the big ship flew far away, the huge suction force coming from the sea water increased to a certain extent, and then suddenly there was a roar, and the suction force reached the extreme. Under this huge suction force, Chen Ronghuo and others were all drawn into a huge whirlpool of sea water in an instant. Viewed from above, this sea water whirlpool looks like the mouth of a giant beast. After opening, it swallowed everyone in one bite. After Chen Ronghuo and others disappeared, they lost the support of several people. The big ship flying high in the sky was supported for a moment by the suspension formation deployed by Zhen Qinzhan in advance, and finally fell into the water with a bang. Fortunately, Jin Qinzhan's formation was quite reliable. After the big ship fell into the sea, although it made a deep hole, it did not sink completely into the sea in the end. Just as the ship was returning to Greenwater Bay Town under the command of Ho San and Hai Tianyue, a large shadow emerged from the place where the devil mermaid had lost its trace. In the shadow, the devil mermaid stared at the departing ship with a pair of fish eyes, and finally hid back in the water, and finally did not take action. The town of Crazy Knife. Outside a mysterious palace at the bottom of the Devilfish Lake, 7 or 8 figures flashed and suddenly appeared here. Although this palace is located at the bottom of the lake, it seems to be covered by some strange formation, and the water in the lake cannot enter here at all. At the same time, from the outside, there is nothing abnormal here. What is this? As soon as he entered here, Chen Ronghuo showed a look of surprise. He looked at the huge palace, only to see that this palace was rough in style and hundreds of meters high, not like a human. At the same time, the door of this palace was actually open. Through the open door, you can see a huge white crystal inside. In that crystal, there was actually a huge devil mermaid over 50 meters tall. The Devil Mermaid King's Palace contains the mermaid song formation. Those who trespass will lose their minds and walk out again without knowing it. The corpse of the 5th level Devil Mermaid King use the forbidden method of the mermaid clan and the marrow of the ocean to seal the corpse and a wisp of residual soul and seek resurrection. Remaining resurrection time, 3 years. During this period, it cannot be disturbed. Once disturbed, it will die completely. When Chen Ronghuo identified the properties of this palace and the huge devil mermaid corpse in the palace, a strange look suddenly appeared on his face. Before, he let go of the 3rd level devil mermaid because of the matter of moving the formation, but he didn't expect that he would actually get a bigger devil mermaid at this time. And it's the Devil Mermaid King. Don't set the next 180 chapters for the time being. There is a bug, the chapters are repeated, and they can't be deleted. I can only find the editor to solve it tomorrow.